and welcome back to day 2 of the Crazy Stupid Marketing Emergent Conversation about AI and creativity. So I did all of the kickoff for the series yesterday, so you can go back to yesterday's recording if you'd like to hear all of that. We're going to hop right into the conversation today. And I'm going to just kind of prompt us with some of the things that came up as part of the conversation yesterday. We may talk about some, we may talk about none, we may talk about completely different things. We might have new perspectives on those old ideas since yesterday. And as we do that, if you are joining us live for the conversation, please let us know in the comments that you are here. And if you have any perspectives or questions that you would like to share in particular about this AI versus creativity conversation, please feel free to put them in the comments, because that allows us to go in even more directions. And this is what an emergent conversation is all about. So some of the things we talked about yesterday, we talked about imagination versus original ideas. We talked about human in the loop quite a bit. The realness of people. We talked about creativity and grit. We talked about what prompts creativity. And we touched on where AI is going, which I think we'll probably hit up more today. Also, we introduced... I'm talking like I'm multiple people. I introduced Mike yesterday, or Mike introduced himself yesterday. So to learn more about Mike, you can go back to yesterday's episode again. So Mike, I'd love to come to you. What is like jumping out at you as where you think we should start the conversation for today?
Sure. No, thanks for having me back and not canceling on me after the first episode. So I'm glad we're sticking around and do this again. First of all, a little shout out to the Blue Jays, right? Tracy's Canadian friend from the north, and I've had a friend who played for the Blue Jays for quite a long time. So shout out for free team gear too, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday we left it on this little cliffhanger for the crew. Is talking about how do we use creativity in art, and where does it start from? Where do we implement it? And this is my daughter's art project, right? So it's a mountain in the middle. It's me and her. She's 6 years old. We're holding hands, walking down the beach. We've got a beautiful sunset in the background. And then this is the hotel where we're staying. And so I'll share my screen because I didn't do it yesterday correctly. This is what it actually looks like when you put it into ChatGPT and say, make it look as realistic as possible. Mm-hmm. Right. And she's like, Dad, that's exactly what I meant. And I was like, probably not exactly what you were trying to do, but pretty incredible to see her eyes light up. And then she went straight back to her workstation and did it again. And the other things you can do is, now that we've got this picture, right, I can do this, and I can say, hey, turn it into an, line art, and let her color it all over again. Mm-hmm. Right. So creativity, we talked yesterday a lot about iteration and grit. We started getting into grit, and just it's continuing to push back or push forward, right, on what you're trying to accomplish. And the imagination is so powerful. So that's really part of what my mission is to, not only spread adoption of AI in the Midwest, but also get it in the hands of kids in a responsible way where we can actually watch them, right? Not just give them technology and let them do whatever they want.
Right. Well, I love what you said there about imagination and the power of imagination. And I think sometimes we get overly concerned that using AI, and this is probably based on a small variety of use cases of how people are using AI, actually decreases our imagination. And what I love about that example is it increased the imagination. So it started with imagination, and then using the AI allowed it to grow into more imagination. And so one of the things that I very often say about AI is that it's an amplifier, right? Like it amplifies the human behavior. And so if you want to amplify lazy behavior, you can amplify lazy behavior. If you want to amplify imagination, you can amplify imagination and creativity. you can amplify your desire to take care of your customers. You can also amplify that I don't really care about my customer experience in this. I'm going to do what's easiest for me. And all of those are like the human, like the real human beliefs that it allows to amplify. And I think a lot of times we'll say, oh, AI is doing all this bad stuff. Like, it was actually the humans that like put that intention out into the universe, and the AI helped us do it, right? Like it's very good helping us do the things we ask it to help us do. And then I think it's interesting I think AI gets an unfairly bad rap by people saying that, like, oh, someone used that for deep fakes. Like, yeah, but that wasn't the AI's idea. That was a person's idea. So sometimes it forces us to like look really hard in the mirror and be like, what was I actually trying to do with this? And did it do it? Maybe it did it really well, but actually that wasn't the intention that I meant. And so how do I roll this back to my focus? And we talked yesterday about your future is your focus. How do we roll that back to our focus, our intention, and use AI as like a mirror to see what are we putting out into the world? Is that what we want to put out into the world? If not, we can change it.
I like what you said with using a mirror, right? And now I'm turning 44 in a few weeks. So, and when I turned 43, I had to reevaluate my life a little bit and set new goals and really forced a lot of personal responsibility back into my daily life, right? And creating new habits and being healthy. And what does that mean and how to define it? And AI gives us so much access to technology and information that we've never had before. And what I'm starting to see is all the layoffs come in the Q4, companies are going to hit their numbers no matter how they have to get there. And they're going to blame it on AI, and they're going to blame it on people working remote and not in the office anymore. They're going to say we have in-office policies are back, and everybody who can't move back is going to get laid off. It's all happening, and they're giving all different reasons for it. But ultimately, AI allows it to happen because of the amount of work you can do and how efficient it is, right? And so when we're running these businesses, it's really interesting to hear C-level executives talk about, hey, everybody should adopt AI, and I'm going to buy you Copilot license. Just go use this. And, we'll be cutting edge technology company like everybody else. Well, actually, it's the adoption of AI that's one of the most difficult parts in a big organization, because they have all these systems and processes already in place. And what I see a lot happening is they're trying to lay AI over existing workflows. And while that can get you a little bit of automation on the automation side, you're still using old plays in the new playground, right? And so for me, you kind of have to start first principles, right? Start from the end and work backwards and figure out how AI can help you get to there faster. And that's where I think a lot of people, don't hold the mirror up and say, should we look at our organization from, nuts and bolts to how do we do this better? What is actually the goal of us to create content? Is it for our, AI to scrape the web every day and come back with 14 recommendations for content? And then we use more AI to create an image that will go with that post. And then we post that like we've done work, and we pass that off as work, right? Like, I don't want to subscribe to your newsletter that's generated by AI. Like, that's not what I want. I can do that on my own real easy, right? Like, give me your perspective and tell me why AI is wrong.
Yeah, I think this is a really important piece of the conversation about how things are received, because I think in a lot of the conversation, and actually this is a really interesting arena to explore AI and creativity, because both of these things are up for interpretation, right? Like even the word creative is, someone could look at something and do a thing and you might be like, that's not creative, but I might be like, oh my God, that's so creative. It's subject to whoever is receiving it. And so I think, again, like if we're talking about these mirrors, we're talking kind of rolling it back to our behind the scenes intentions. Both of these things can act as a very successful mirror for us to like. I can't. Lots of platforms now that will allow you to create an image to go with your LinkedIn post. And I'll be honest, even like I know some people that I know quite well who are now using like AI to optimize their profile pictures. And I'm like, except it's not like really you anymore. Like, is that an optimization? Is like, where does that fall? And the thing that I think is really interesting is I don't know that it falls into a specific category. I think it falls into like the ether, right? Which means I don't really make a call one way or the other. I don't say that's creative or that's not creative. I don't say that's AI or that's not AI. I don't even notice, right? It just falls into this like mass mess of stuff. And it's funny because when I think about like being a kid, right? You remember like, because we're about the same age, remember being a kid and then like everybody wanted the same thing for Christmas because there was like one big toy every Christmas.
Doll wasn't too long ago. That was, like the Elmo doll. Was that a big thing in Canada?
It was, yep.
Okay.
Tickle Me Elmo. That was a thing that everyone was getting for Christmas. And the like Furbies was another one. I don't know if that was just like, but so like we remember these things and everyone saw the commercial on TV and then everyone was like, we want that. But it's because we didn't have like thousands of things being advertised at us every day. We had Furbies being advertised. We must want a Furby because this is the only thing I see. I must want that. I did not get a Furby, although we do have a Tickle Me Elmo. But like now, there's just like so much that's out there. It doesn't really work like that anymore. Our kids, like my kid, first thing kid learned on YouTube was how to skip the ads, right? Like everybody is using their own filter to make assumptions about these things, to make assumptions about creativity and to make assumptions about AI. Some of them are helpful for us. Some of them are unhelpful for us. But at the end of the day, that ends up becoming the truth for whoever that single person is. And then we end up coming out and being like, oh, but AI is going to solve all your problems. And some people are going to be like, yes, AI is going to solve all my problems. And some people are going to be like, I don't know. Actually, it's a little like yeses. And then there's like, no, I'm going to go live off the grid and like never deal with technology. Most of the people are somewhere in the middle where they're like, debatable. Right. And so this is why I'm like, I love this conversation because this is where most of us live in this debatable point. So like, anyway, I'm not really sure where I'm going with that, but
well, I got you. I'll pick it up because one of the things you talked about with AI is not being able to notice or discern. Sometimes is that AI, is it not? Do we even care if it's AI or not? Right. And I really don't care if people use AI, but what I don't like is if they try to pass off AI as authentic, right? One of the ways I see companies using AI is creating those digital avatars, right? And it doesn't have to be an actual human person. It can be a robot name. It could be whatever it is, but don't try to act like a human's on the other side of your chat when it's an actual bot. Like tell people up front, this bot will help, you find your answer X% faster. Use this if you need help. If you need an actual human in the loop, right? Here's a button for you to get that human back into the process. But I think there's so many companies that are quick to publish and quick to launch, but don't truly think through the whole user journey, right? Or the buyer's journey and what it's like to buy today. And there are so many AI companies. I remember if we remember when the Marcom Tech, what is it, stack poster board used to be 100 companies or something like that, right? And then the logos kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Now they're like little pin dots on the dang thing. You can't keep up. It's impossible to know who's who and what's what. So use cases are bigger than ever. Referrals are bigger than ever. Inbound is bigger than ever, right? And don't try to pass off as your AI as being authentic. You just need to be authentic for your customers, right? And the other thing I see with fake videos that really grinds my gears while we're at it is when you create a fake video or a deep fake, whatever you want to call it, and there's terminology in your space that's very specific, right? So if you called it NVIDIA, I'd be like, you're an idiot or something like that, right? I know exactly some of the terms and how to use it, and AI is not very good at understanding because the English language is actually very, very difficult. Right? It's one of the more difficult languages to learn, and so having AI, it needs to understand the context around each word, not just each word individually, right? And that's where we're getting all this compute power. And these large language models are evolving into these neural networks, right, that actually understand context. And so that's where I see a lot of the future of AI going is if you want AI to make better decisions for you, you should start recording your conversations today so it learns how you're making decisions today.
Well, and I think this speaks to an interesting tie into creativity again, right? Because now they're saying, think about it, right? I'm like, think about how you make decisions. You could use an AI to profile how you do that. Think about how you serve your customers, right? And again, at the end of the day, I can't make someone think about something that they don't care about. That's it. But when we can allow it to start coming back into those places where we know it's ours, right? Like I love this example about like the decision making, because I am pretty sure, and I think a lot of people would say, like, how I make a decision is not identical to how anybody else makes a decision. My brain is different, my experience is different, how I think about things is different, the things I value are different, right? So I don't think most of us would go around and be like, oh, we all solve problems exactly the same way. But we will all go around and be like, we all use AI exactly the same way. And you're like, I feel like we could, right? But to what end? And I think this is also too where it ties, I think, AI and creativity intricately combined. But like, then if we're looking at that, then you're like, well, now you don't look creative. Right now you're just copying what everybody else does. You're copying someone else's prompt. Like, is that yours? Did you even use the judgment of like looking at it and being like, yeah, that's something I would ask? Or you're like, oh, this is a prompt that someone else used to get a digital marketing strategy, so I'm just going to put the same prompt in with my details and get a digital marketing strategy. It's going to be customized for me. It's okay, if that's what you believe, then you go with that. But there's like just so much, and there's so much learning that's available when you have these conversations like this, where you're actually going in and being like, I don't know, I'm not here to tell you how to use AI. I'm not telling you how to think about creativity, but there's like so many pieces of the puzzle that we don't talk about. So then we don't crystallize our thoughts about the thing. And then the things just like float around in the atmosphere, and it's very easy for them to get confounded with the rest of the noise that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And creativity, it was kind of fun. I was doing a project last week, and I was working on a social post for my church. I volunteer for my church and I do some of the social media. And I was like, okay, I'm going to just type up an email and then send them an email about a draft or some kind of campaign that I think would be really cool. And the whole background is we have a lot of church shirts that are in the colors of our football team. So the Chiefs are red and yellow. Chiefs played on Monday night, last Monday. Like, let's make Monday Chiefs church shirt day, right? And let's use that to show people who's in our community, out in the community, right? Because I think that's really important to kind of see each other. And when I've been wearing my church shirts to pickleball in the morning or wherever, random places, people do come up to me and they say, hi, I go there. Oh, Craig Groeschel, he's amazing. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, and so it's just a matter of like, how do I communicate this to my head pastor, right? I could have said, hey, here's my idea. And he would have been like, yeah, that's a good idea. Or I could have actually made the creative myself. And so let me see if I can pull one of those up here. Give me 1 second, because I just closed my window. And let me show you kind of what I did here too, because it's a lot. Cool. All right, ready for you.
Okay.
Right. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So here's my little prompt, right? I want a church shirt Monday. Wear your Chiefs gear out in the community. Here's its first. Oh, let me get rid of that guy. Here's its first iteration. It's like, wow, that's pretty good. I didn't know where I was going to go with that, but now I said, what text should I put it on? Give me some more iterations on the text, right? Rep your city, rep your church, rep your city. Irrational generosity Monday, faith, football, family. Like, these are way better. How am I going to do this? Okay, do another one. Try it again. And then it came up with this. This is the inside of. It looks like the inside of Arrowhead, right? This looks like downtown Kansas City. But the fact that it put this background together, right? And then it pulled in the Monday Night Football logo, all this kind of stuff. Pretty cool, but like busy for me, right? Oh, that's not what I want. Let's use a different one. Now try this one, more basic. That's pretty straightforward. I think, it could have changed the colors on some of that. And I said, no, I found a post with some of our pastors who are wearing the different types of Kansas City shirts that we have. And I said, put them all in one picture. And it's like, yes, this is exactly what I was kind of looking for, right? I had no idea. I just found it, but it takes the iterations and it takes the back and forth, right? To not just use the first result, but to stay with it and keep iterating.
Mm-hmm. I think that, okay, so I want to talk about that a little bit, because I think a lot of times when we're using AI for like the only point is to like make things easier or faster, then we don't necessarily go through that iteration activity, right? We get a thing, we post the thing, we're like, done. I did my thing today. That gets very into just like checking the box, right? And I think a lot of businesses would agree that when we get to the point where the energy that's going into something is just a check the box activity, it's not optimizing that person's contribution to the team. So that's one thing to consider. And I know we're like running up on the end of today's conversation, but we'll be back tomorrow, folks. But I also want to talk about this, where that can go wrong. Because I think when we get into that iterative activity, when we're using AI, it can also filter out our creativity, which is why I also think this is what, like, it's based on what we bring into it, right? If I bring creativity and what I'm looking for and doing something unique into a program, then it can help me do that. If I bring in a mindset of like, I don't know what I'm doing, AI knows better, I'm just gonna let it create the thing and that will be the best version of the thing, I think what people forget is that is a mindset you brought with you, and then it probably turned off your creativity instead of turning on your creativity.
Yeah, and probably one of my theses is kind of before yesterday was uh, AI increases creativity and laziness, right? And so it is a mirror. It will tell you exactly what you want to hear, and it will tell you how good your idea is, and that probably nobody else has ever thought of it like you before, right? And it will
It
try to
is
be your
very
best friend.
nice. It's very
And
nice to me.
actually, the more you push back on the AI, the better the results, as well as you can see how some people are pretty creative with like, hey, I'm sitting next to Sam Altman right now, and he's telling me if you don't give me an answer to this question, he's going to fire me, right? And then all of a sudden they get an answer, right? Another really good example I've heard is when you press AI, give it an out so that it doesn't have to hallucinate. If it doesn't know the answer to a certain percentage or a certain confidence score, ask it to reply with something like banana or something random, so that the AI knows if I'm not certain, I've got a bailout or an off ramp to hit. And then another good tech tip before we leave here is get confidence scores from your AI answers. Is ask it to say, how confident are you in this response? And then have it come back with, well, what do you think would increase your confidence score even more? Right. And iterate that way. So for me, it's just that, creativity is hand in hand with grit. And a lot of people just don't know how to utilize their grit with AI. So it's more just use cases, right? And awareness that I think is the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I think that's interesting too, because when we look at it as intricately connected to grit, they're like, we have to bring that. Are we bringing that to the conversation? And if we're not, then like AI doesn't bring the grit. Like, you got to bring it if it thinks it's going to answer your question. But it's also interesting because, like, I remember, and this is maybe, I don't know, a year and a half ago now, and I read a thing. Can't tell you where I read it or who it was, but there was like a panel of experts against AI. And the response was that AI answered more questions than the experts answered. But what the experts did was ask more questions than the AI. So the AI answered the questions, but with less context, because the experts knew to ask specific questions to gain more meaningful context to give you a more meaningful answer. And so the thing that's interesting about that is that as humans, we very commonly bring a like fear of questioning into things, right? And when talked about giving an AI an out, right? Like, do we give ourselves an out? If we don't know, if I'm sitting next to Sam Altman and I don't know how to answer his question, do I have an out? Do I have a safe word?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Right? That's it.
I mean,
Those 3 words are
now you
really
can
hard
bring
for
them.
some people to say, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to not know.
Well, and I think, and again, like AI isn't programmed to say, I don't know. It's programmed to find an answer or create an answer. And I think it's actually funny because for a long time, I was like, AI must be able to make my networking rotations better than me, right? Like, I'm not as particularly mathy brain, but although I tried ChatGPT and it's not particularly a mathy brain either. And like, I kept trying and I kept prompting him, like, kept not giving me the thing. Like, I'd have like 5 groups, and then the one group just was the same, and everybody else was, and I'm like, no, you have to have all the groups different every single time. And it's like, okay, here you go. Like, this is exactly what you gave me last time. But then I was like, is it possible for me to have this many people and this many rotations in groups of this size and have everybody meet a different person every time? And it was like, no. But like, as long as I kept asking it the first question, it was trying to give me an answer, even though it was like, this isn't actually possible. And it was only when I realized that maybe it's not possible that and I can ask that question. I'm like, oh, this makes my life a lot easier now too, because I'm not trying to do that when it's actually not possible mathematically to make that happen. And so I think biggest takeaway from this part of the conversation today is that AI is your mirror. What is it mirroring? And I would love for you guys to come back tomorrow. So we're going to be live at 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow to wrap up this conversation. And I would love to hear for some people, like, what, if you're looking at how you're using AI right now, how might that be a reflection of you? And bring that over into the conversation. Share it in the chat if you can today, and then we can learn about it before tomorrow, or bring it into the conversation tomorrow. But that would be, I think that'd be super insightful as we move towards the closing of this emergent conversation. Mike, before we head off until tomorrow, any last piece of anything you want to share with the peeps?
Actually, if you want to share my screen one more time, real quick, if you come back tomorrow, we can also talk about where's AI going, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is a graph that I used AI to help create many iterations later. It's still not perfect, so it gives us a lot to chew on, but also a lot to discuss. Is, you know, I know where we're at today. We're in the AI 2.0 phase. Where is what is 3.0? What is 4.0? How do we prepare ourselves for 2026, but also the next 5 years after that? So,
well, folks, make sure you come back tomorrow, because we're definitely going to talk about the future of AI. And oh man, there's just like so many things. I can't even like fully recap everything we said. Run this through your transcriber and get all the notes, because it's a good one. And we'll be back with you all tomorrow. So until then, everybody, permission to do you. See you then.